Hello and welcome to Inside the Americas on France 24. On the show this week, US President-elect Joe Biden moves on with his transition with no support from the White House. He warns many more Americans could die if Donald Trump and him don't coordinate. Barack Obama's memoir, Promised Land, hits the bookshelves. The 700-page book takes us from the former president's childhood to the killing of Osama bin Laden during his first term in office. And Peru swears in its third president in over a week. Former World Bank official Francisco Sagasti is set to remain in office until next July. But first, Donald Trump has yet to concede defeat after the election was called for Joe Biden. Nevertheless, the president-elect is moving along with his transition without federal funds, nor help from the White House. While Biden previously dismissed Trump's reluctance, he's now warning that many more Americans could die from the pandemic if the two sides don't coordinate. For more on what Donald Trump's last 2 months in office could look like, here's Yuka Roya reporting.
The current presidential transition is shaping up to be the most uncommon in modern US history, with the sitting president bent on undermining the legitimacy of his successor's election. As the country remains in the grips of a pandemic, President-elect Joe Biden's team is becoming frustrated with the refusal by the outgoing government to share information.
More people may die if we don't coordinate. How do we get over 300 million Americans vaccinated? What's the game plan? It's a huge, huge, huge undertaking. If we have to wait until January 20th to start that planning, it puts us behind over a month and a half.
We need action during the lame duck. There's a lot of things that are going to have to wait until Joe Biden is president, but this is not one of them.
Once the election result is certified, the incumbent will enter a so-called lame duck presidency until Inauguration Day. It's common for outgoing presidents to issue a slew of executive orders during this period while ensuring a smooth transition. But Trump might take more serious actions on immigration, trade, or foreign policy that could hamper the incoming administration's ability to move quickly. The president has already fired his defense chief and signed an executive order banning American investments into Chinese firms that Washington claims are backed by the military. He has also said that he will pull US troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan and sell rights to oil companies to start drilling in the Arctic refuge in Alaska before January the 20th. According to the New York Times, Trump recently sought to strike an Iranian nuclear site in the coming weeks, but was discouraged by his advisors. Presidential pardons are also common during the lame duck period. Barack Obama shortened the prison sentences of 330 inmates towards the end of his presidency. There's speculation that Trump may use his pardon power to clear the likes of Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn, his own former aides who have faced charges.
To the latest on the race for a coronavirus vaccine, where the United States looks like it's coming out on top. US pharmaceutical giant Pfizer says its vaccine is 95% effective. Last week, preliminary data showed an efficacy rate of over 90%. On Monday, another American firm, Moderna, announced its vaccine candidate was 94.5% effective in preventing COVID-19.
Raising the bar to a new level, Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech have announced final trials show their vaccine is 95% effective. This just one day after Moderna boasted its vaccine was 94.5% effective, based on interim data from a late-stage clinical trial with more than 30,000 participants. The news means that 2 US laboratories are now at the forefront of the race to create a COVID vaccine.
Both of these vaccines use the same platform technology. This is such a different technology. It's very, very different from conventional ones. So this technology involves making the RNA, which is a molecule that provides information to the cells of the body to produce the antigen.
Moderna and Pfizer BioNTech are the only major players to use the modified RNA technology, and both are on track to seek permission within weeks for emergency use in the country. By next year, Washington could have access to over 1 billion doses from these two companies, more than it needs to inoculate its 330 million residents. While the US seems to be at the top of the table for now, it does face competition from around the world. There are currently 10 teams conducting Phase 3 human trials. 4 are American, 3 are Chinese, 1 from the UK, 1 from Russia, and 1 from India. However, a considerable challenge for widespread distribution is cost. Pfizer has charged the US government $39 for a 2-dose course of its vaccine, while Moderna has charged about $50. In contrast, the UK's Oxford AstraZeneca is offering theirs to EU countries for around $4. Even if the US-based vaccines are available first, they may not be the most widely bought by other countries in the long run. They also face competition from Russia when it comes to storage temperatures. Pfizer's vaccine must be kept at -70 degrees Celsius and Moderna's at -20, posing a logistical challenge for distribution, particularly for poorer countries. Moscow announced it's been testing out freeze-drying its Sputnik jab, meaning it could be stored at normal fridge temperatures. However, some Western scientists have expressed concern over the vaccine, which Russia registered ahead of large-scale clinical trials.
Staying in the United States next, where former President Barack Obama's much-awaited memoir, A Promised Land, has hit the shelves. In the book, Obama makes clear that Donald Trump's presidency was no accident and was triggered by his own stint in the top job. The 700-page book takes us from Obama's childhood to the killing of Osama bin Laden in May 2011. Ellen Gainsford reports.
While his successor prefers the brevity of a 280-character tweet, Barack Obama's memoir is more than 700 pages of thoughtful analysis. But one question remains unanswered. What led to the whiplash of his successor's election? Well, with Donald Trump now on the way out, Obama is pulling no punches.
Donald Trump breached so many norms, so many basic assumptions about what a president should or should not do, that you can't come up with a comparable set of behaviors in the past.
The first of 2 volumes, A Promised Land, covers the former president's first chapter in life, taking him to his time in the White House. There are colourful sketches of his fellow world leaders. Putin is compared to a tough Chicagoan, while Rahul Gandhi is described as a student eager to impress. The memoir also includes personal tidbits, like his 10-a-day cigarette habit, which he dropped for his daughters. But it ends with a stark warning on the state of American democracy.
Our democracy seems to be teetering on the brink of crisis, a crisis rooted in a fundamental contest between 2 opposing visions of what America is and what it should be.
The former president says his hopes are on the Biden-Harris team to help reinstate the norms of democracy and re-establish faith in American institutions. Its publication comes as the United States is more divided than ever.
To our picture of the week next, and it's of a man in Nicaragua watching the damage done to his house after the passing of Hurricane Iota. The storm even flooded stretches of neighboring Honduras, which were still underwater from Hurricane Eta, which hit the region 2 weeks earlier. Now, Peru swore in its 3rd president in just over a week. Former World Bank official Francisco Sagasti is set to remain in office until next July. Peru was plunged into political chaos after Congress voted to oust former President Martin Vizcarra. In the aftermath, Parliament swore in a replacement who resigned after just 5 days when protests turned violent.
1 week, 3 presidents. Peru's Congress has appointed 76-year-old Francisco Sagasti as interim president in an attempt to defuse an escalating political crisis in the country that has led to angry protests and the deaths of 2 protesters. After his swearing in, Sagasti said that the country needed to ask itself serious questions.
Today is not a day of celebration. We have many problems, tragedies, and difficulties that are no cause for celebration. This is a moment for reflection. It's a moment for us to ask ourselves, when did we lose momentum? This is a moment to amend and to decisively advance towards a better future for all Peruvians.
The political crisis was sparked when Congress impeached and ousted President Martín Vizcarra last week over allegations of graft. Vizcarra, who denies the charges, has long clashed with lawmakers over his anti-corruption stance and his attempts to remove parliamentary immunity. Popular with many Peruvians, his removal prompted angry protests in which 2 protesters were killed. His constitutional replacement, Congress Chief Manuel Merino, resigned 5 days into his tenure as the protests escalated, leaving Peru leaderless for over 24 hours. Francisco Sagasti has now been voted in to lead Congress and, by default, the country. Sagasti will see out the government's mandate that ends in July next year, which includes the upcoming election on April 11th.
And finally, not even the coronavirus pandemic could stop a balloon festival from taking place in the state of Guanajuato in Mexico, although there were only a few hundred people on site, with many joining in online to watch balloons in different shapes and sizes, including one of SpongeBob SquarePants and famous Mexican cartoons. That's it for this edition of Inside the Americas. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.